Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls of the internet, I give you a wonderful, long-awaited sequel to my original video review of Panzer Dragoon. Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei. Once again developed by the wonderful team Andromeda, this is by far still one of the best games on the Sega Saturn, and has one of the coolest stories and worlds attached to it. So, without further ado, let's take a look at Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei. When we first start the game, we see a quite depressing opening cutscene. There's our protagonist, Jean-Luc Lundy, looking outward with a very mixed expression on his face. He lives in a superstitious village where mutant kulias, a type of pack animal, are considered a bad omen and are killed. When Lundy discovers a mutant kulia, he decides to keep it and names it Laggy. Laggy has a strange green glow in his throat and budding wings. After Laggy is full grown, Lundy takes the kulia out to try to get him to fly. While Lundy takes Laggy out, a huge ship called Shellkoof destroys Lundy's village. Laggy's green glow grows brighter, and Laggy fires arrow of light from his mouth, the trademark attack of dragons from the ancient age, also known as the Berserk attack. Lundy chases Shellkoof on Laggy's back, but they are struck down by a mysterious dragon before they can board it. After they recover, Lundy and Laggy follow Shellkoof's trail while fending off attacks from indigenous beasts and imperial forces, who Lundy assumes are after Laggy. He later learns that they are in fact also in pursuit of Shellkoof with the intent to use it as a weapon against Messenia forces. Lundy and Laggy catch up with Shellkoof and destroy its core, in which they discover that the dragon who struck them down before had been incubating. When it emerges, it has grown to enormous size and assumed enough power to be a menace to society. In a final battle, Lundy and Laggy destroy the large dragon. And that, my friends, is how the game story ends. Holy moly guacamole. This game, yeah, that is an incredibly intense story. And I got some things to say about this. As for starters, Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei is actually a prequel title to the first game. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, Panzer Dragoon 2 pulls an Indiana Jones and decides to go a step backwards for its next installment forward. It is also my own personal belief that Lundy and Laggy are the rider and the dragon that we see in the opening cutscene in the first Panzer Dragoon game. If you see how Laggy grows throughout the episode stages, you can see a somewhat fair resemblance to Laggy and the dragon from Panzer Dragoon 1. To put things into perspective, this game takes place 20 years before the first title. So, my theory is somewhat likely. Now then, just because the game's story goes back in time here, does not mean that the gameplay did not improve. Panzer Dragoon 2 for sure does play better than the first titles. This game does not fail to feel new and to act new, giving you somewhat more responsive controls from the first game, and even a new attack from your dragon. You see the little bar in the lower left hand corner of the screen, right above the health bar? Well, as you attack more enemies, it slowly grows. Once it's in the green, Laggy unleashes an ultimate attack of beams and annihilates almost everything in your path. As I've mentioned before, it's called the Berserk Attack. It's pretty awesome, and acts like a beta idea to what we will eventually see in the third game. In fact, I think I'm right about that. I believe it is a beta idea to what we see in Panzer Dragoon Saga. I'm pretty sure it is, I'm just speculating on that, but I'm positive it is. Now then, just like Panzer Dragoon 1, we have got to talk about the music a little bit. I love the soundtrack here. The lush environments, the story. I like most of the things as much as the first Panzer Dragoon here. Maybe. Definitely the games' stories. I really like them both equally, but the second game is a bit more interesting compared to the first. The tone is great, the presentation is fantastic. The opening cinematic really pulls you in. You're feeling for Lundy right in the beginning, and you want things to go well for him and Laggy. However, I still prefer the soundtrack to the first games. Nothing against this game's soundtrack. It's gorgeous, as you can tell by the opening song I use. That's an arranged version of the actual, theme song. I don't think there's a single bad Panzer Dragoon soundtrack, especially not from the third game. No way, they're all incredible and magnificent pieces of art to listen to. And, similar to the first game, the music plays throughout the stages as events unfold, and it plays in appropriate moments with each event that happens in front of you. I don't believe the third game has that same effect. It might, because its format is very different. But for the first two games, they are basically designed very similarly, gameplay-wise. They really are. The third game controls just as great as the first two, but there's a lot more going on. And we'll talk about that more when we get to Panzer Dragoon Saga. The stages and bosses this time around are a bit more intense and interesting compared to the first games, I believe. For example, I really like the boss you fight that's underwater when you inside the cavern with the bridge. It's like a giant lobster monster. I love it. And the one in the forest, the giant creature that chases you, that one was awesome too. And I love this one. The one when the entire stage when you're in the sky and there's just this giant battleship. Well, it turns out that giant battleship is the entire boss fight of the level. The entire level is basically the boss fight. How often does the game do that? That is freaking cool, especially of a boss fight that massive. That is awesome. Like, oh my goodness. Very imaginative. They went above and beyond the Call of Duty when it came to the visuals here. Just like the soundtrack and everything else, Panzer Dragoon has a lot of creativity put into it. And as a fan and lover of art, it's definitely something I really respect. I do think it's very interesting how Laggy grows throughout the stages in the game. And depending on how you perform, his mutations always look a bit different than the last. Not only that, 3 out of the 7 stages in the game have branching paths. Depending on what paths you take, the game will either be more or less of a challenge. They also affect your grade at the end of the stage, meaning that they also affect Laggy's growth. I'm going to guess that you guys can put 2 and 2 together and know which paths the game may want you to take. Meaning that you probably know which paths are canon. I'm going to guarantee you it's probably not the walk in the park ones. As I mentioned before, the team really went wild this time around, and with their imagination, as you could probably tell by what I have showed you. Much like the first Panzer Dragoon, Zwei can be really difficult. This game will kick your ass until it's grass like it's nobody's business. There's a ton of enemies on the screen just like before. It gets really intense, and thankfully with the lock-on and the Berserk attack, you can move forward pretty well, but you can't really abuse it. You've got to build it up, and then eventually you'll be able to unleash a bunch of attacks at once, and you pretty much can annihilate practically everything in your way. So it is very helpful, but you still got to be on your toes a bit while you play through these stages. Well guys, that's really all I have to say about Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei. If you guys decide to go on and check this one out, I really hope that you enjoy it. I love Panzer Dragoon 2 Zwei, and it's still one of my favorite Sega Saturn games. Sorry if my reviews felt a little short, but I still hope that you enjoyed it. I'm really hoping that we get an announcement of a fan remake of this one soon, 2. I don't know why that hasn't happened yet. Did the first Panzer Dragoon remake sell well? I don't know. Is the team still around? What is going on with that? What is the last that we've heard from the Panzer Dragoon 2's Zwei remake? I should personally look that up later when I can, but I believe it's been in the dark for like about a little over a year now, so I don't know, but let's all hope and pray for Panzer Dragoon 2's Zwei remake. Let's hope it happens so that we can eventually get the Panzer Dragoon 3 or Saga remake as well. I mean, it's nothing against this game. I think this game is beautiful. They both should get remade. But Panzer Dragoon is a series that should not be forgotten about. Absolutely not. Anyways, I'll see you guys again in another 4 to 5 years when I finally get around to reviewing Panzer Dragoon Saga, the Big Daddy Sega Saturn game itself. Till next time, adios.